Welcome to today's programming tutorial. Today we are going to jump into a program that I've kind of set up for you, and we're going to make some small changes and fix this game. So be sure that you click this link. This link is either in the description below this video or it's on the web page that you came from. And once you get here, you want to be sure you remix. If you don't see that remix button, that's because you need to sign in. So go ahead and sign in with your Scratch ID if you need to, and then definitely be sure that you click this green remix button. Now you have your own version of this program and we are ready to go. So first thing I want you to do is be sure you are in the right brain. So if you look down here at your sprites, we got lots of sprites. I want to make sure you're in the brain of this 3, which is called countdown. You'll notice that he has costumes 3, 2, 1, and 0. So what we want to do is we want these things to cycle through their costumes. If I hit run right now, all he does is sit there and look at me, which is kind of sad. So our vision is, if you go into looks, which is purple, my favorite thing is next costume. Now, I want this next costume, and think about this. I want him to go to his next costume once, twice, 3 times, right? That would be beautiful, and give me a countdown. Now, I'm going to teach you how to be a little lazy. I could drag out 3 next costume blocks. I could do that, but if you go to your control, this orange one here, you will notice our repeat block. And we've seen repeat block before. He kind of looks like that dinosaur that wants to eat some code, right? So what I would like to say is, let's take this repeat block, and I want to feed him the next costume. Sometimes these are called repeat blocks. I call them loops. So it's like a repeat loop because it will kind of cause you to loop around and you'll be stuck in this going round and round and round and round before you move on. I'm going to say this, you do not want to repeat next costume 10 times because you don't have that many costumes. So if I were to run this right now, it gets a little crazy. And it's really, really fast. So let's say this. I need to slow things down a little bit because it's too intense. So if I go to control up at the very top, I want to wait a second. Now it's very important that you think about where you put this wait block. Do you want to feed it to the dinosaur or put it after the dinosaur? So do you want to wait more than once or only once? So what I will say is after the costume, actually, I lied. I want it right here because there's putting on your 3 costume. Then you want to be sure that you wait before you go to the 2 costume, and then you loop back around and wait before you go to the 1 costume, etc. So now look how cool this is. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3. Now, 3, 2, 1. It's still counting. Why is it still counting? Because we told it to do it too many times. So we told him that we wanted him to do this 10 times, which is not true because I don't have that many costumes. So let's try a 3. Look how nice that is. Look at that countdown. Beautiful. Now, what you need to really understand though is that this weight, it's very important where you put that weight, because if I put it like this, if I put the weight after the next costume in that loop, it goes to 3, immediately changes into his 2 outfit before he waits. So watch this. See how when I press the green flag, I don't even see the 3? That's because he put on his 3 and immediately changed clothes and then waited. So we want to make sure we do this. 3, 2, 1, 0. Nice. Now we're counting down to the beginning of the game. So what we want to do now is switch to the next backdrop. So let's go, we'll do this. We'll say, switch me to the galaxy backdrop. Now, I don't want to switch the backdrop more than once. I want to switch to the backdrop after it's all done. So this is the interesting thing. This is why in most programming languages these are called loops, because when you are going through your code, when your computer is reading this, it reads down the page. It will do the switch, then it will do the wait, then it will do the next costume, then it will loop around almost like you're on a roller coaster, right? And then you'll come back and do the wait and the next costume and loop back around, wait and next costume, Now, I don't know how many times I did that. Did I do that 3 times? Here's the 3rd time. And then once it's done it that many times, then it will move on with its life and keep on going and switch the backdrop, right? So it is kind of crazy, but it's a loop because literally your computer kind of gets stuck going around in circles. It goes whammy, 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 woo, and then moves on with its life. And that is a loop. So let's try this out. When I hit the green flag, I get 3, 2, 1. Ooh, and now I have a new game going, right? So here's what I want you to do. Go ahead and pause the video. Be sure that you get all this built up just right with your repeat loop and your weight in the right point, and then come back and we will program this game. Welcome back. Now your countdown works and it's landed you into this game. I have a couple different players going on here. I have the dog, the rocket ship, and the planet, which is beautiful. Let's go take a look at the dog's brain. So make sure you click on the dog's brain down here at the bottom. And he has a lot of information in his brain. I'm going to zoom out for just a second to show you how big his brain is. We are going to deal with a bunch of this code right here and play with it. Now, I got kind of fancy and I didn't want to put all of the code that makes him move here in this forever loop, so I kind of moved it over here. So now forever, he's going to say take a step, which comes over here and makes him respond to the keys. So over and over again, he's listening to your arrow keys. So I can drive him around by pressing my different arrow keys, up, down, left, right. Now, the bad news is some of you guys don't have arrow keys because if you're on an iPad, you don't have a keyboard, so you don't have an arrow key. So if you're programming on an iPad, if you scroll down below this, this looks kind of silly because it's teeny tiny, just 2 lines of code. But I gave you this code that you could, if you move this, if you attach that instead, if you're an iPad person without a keyboard, you can drive him by touching your finger on the screen, and he will keep going to wherever you're touching your finger on the screen. Whatever works for you. I'm going to keep mine with the keyboard because I have a keyboard with arrow keys. Here's what we have. This dog is forever and ever and ever moving, taking little steps. So look how cool this is. He's forever and ever and ever listening to what I'm telling him to do and moving. Oh, awesome. Now that's great because he just keeps doing it. Now the only strange thing here is at some point I want this rocket to end the game, right? When the rocket touches you, that means the game's over. But at this point in time, that's not how my dog behaves because I told him that he's literally going to just keep moving and listening to my movement commands forever and ever and ever for all time, right? And so it never stops. So let's go take a look at control. If you look at control, there are 3 different flavors of loops. There's repeat so many times. We already used that for the countdown and that was awesome. There's repeat forever, which means literally you're just going to do it for all time. And then there is this guy, repeat until I tell you to stop, right? And so those are all great in different options. Repeat 10 times was great for the countdown, but it wouldn't be good for here because I don't know how many times he's going to have to move before the rocket gets him. So I can't say, okay, you're going to move 10 times or you're going to move 100 times. So I'm going to trash that. Forever is what we have right now. I'm going to trash that. This right here is beautiful because this would let me tell you kind of the same thing, keep going and do it over and over and over again. But then I'm going to tell you, think of this almost like a stop sign. I'm going to tell you when to stop. So here we go. Let's rearrange. I'm going to take this forever out. I'm going to put this repeat until, and I'm going to take his movement and put it right there. Now, the big question is, when do I want you to stop moving, right? I want you to stop moving when you get smashed by a rocket ship. So let's go to sensing. And when you get into sensing, you will see our touching block, and notice how it's just the right shape to fit in there. And I would like to say, I want you to keep moving until you got touched by the rocket ship. Ka-ching. Something else I want you to notice. This repeat until has a little spot where I could put more code after that, right? Because at some point you're going to stop doing this loop and move on with your life. This forever does not have anything for me to attach code to because you will never stop going around in that loop. So you can't have anything that happens after that because you will be stuck in there for all eternity. So let's give this a shot. I'm going to drive this dog around, and eventually that dog is going to get hit by the rocket ship. And now I cannot move that dog. He is stuck and he is not listening to my movement anymore. So go ahead and pause the video real quick. Make sure that you've swapped out that repeat block, and then you're ready to go and test out your dog to make sure he stops moving when it's time. Okay, now that you're back and you have taken care of that in your dog's brain, let's deal with the rocket ship, because the rocket ship didn't get the memo that he needs to stop trying to attack the dog, because watch this. He just keeps trying to move towards the dog, and now he's really confused. So let's switch brains real quick. I'm in the dog's brain. I want to go to the rocket ship's brain. And now look at this. His forever loop has more sandwich in there. He's got more stuff in the dinosaur's mouth, if you will. So here's your challenge. I want you to change the rocket ship's brain, similar to what we did with the dog, so that the rocket ship doesn't continue trying to attack the dog forever. So I want you to have him only try to attack the dog until he doesn't need to do that anymore. So pause the video, try that out, adjust his code, and make sure your rocket ship works correctly. When you get that done appropriately, then your game will run like this. You can drive around, but the moment that they collide and the game is over, they both stop moving. And so the rocket ship doesn't keep like harassing the dog. He just stops and they freeze. And let's go back to the dog's brain. Okay, so the dog has this repeat until. We're back in the dog's brain. Now, the great thing, like we talked about with the repeat until, is that life can move on when it's over. So eventually when he's touching the rocket ship, you can move on. So just to prove this to you, I'm going to put underneath that, and again, notice I can attach something underneath that block. I can say, ouch. And so think about how this code runs. When I give this a run, that dog is not going to say ouch. So not yet. He's still taking step, taking step, taking a step, taking a step. He's repeating taking a step. And then, so again, you can kind of see that hamne, 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 who action, right? He was taking steps forever. Eventually, this told him to stop, and he moved on with his life. Now, what we want to do is we want to literally move on with our lives. So if you go to your look, there is another backdrop that we can deal with. And so I'm going to grab this switch backdrop. And there is a game over backdrop that you're looking for. So again, this does not happen until after he's done moving, and he's done moving when he gets that rocket ship. So watch this. And he will also say that ouch for 2 seconds before we move on. So I'm moving around. Oh, I could try to pick up a... Oh, and he says ouch for 2 seconds. And then we move to the new backdrop. Very nice. But congratulations, take a minute to give yourself a round of applause because you just made an amazing game. I will take you on a tour of a few other things that you can play with if you want to spice it up just a little bit. If you go to the rocket ship's brain, notice the rocket ship says point towards the dog and move, and then it's got this placeholder. And this placeholder is saying, well, whatever that number says. So right now, if the dog was running this code, he would move 4.64 steps. But then the interesting thing is every time he moves, then this number is going to go up by just a little bit. So he just keeps, every time he's chasing the dog, he gets a little faster and a little faster. Now you can play with that number if you want to, and you can adjust all that, but this beautiful thing, this is called a variable, because instead of me saying take 6 steps, I'm letting that number vary or change depending on what's happening in the game. Also, just to make things interesting, anytime he hears that the dog has picked up the planet, then the speed will go down by 1. So from here, take this game and make it your own. You can play with those speed variables and adjust the changes to make the game easier or harder. Also throw in new sounds, adjust the costumes, and take this game and make it exactly what you want it to be.